In the 70s, there was a surge in sci-fi films, both good and bad. Some directors became household names for revolutionizing the genre. At the peak of political tension between USA and USSR, animosity was at an all-time high. Both countries were continuously competing to one-up each other in the fields of cinema amongst several others. In 1968, Stanley Kubrick released his magnum opus, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Russian author Andrei Tarkovsky publicly denounced this film, going against the flow of the tide to do so. He claimed that the film was too empty, conveyed little to no emotional themes, and that the ending was too hopeful for something as bleak as a man in space. He said that Western science fiction films were too shallow, as they were more concerned with the technological advances and making films as a means of furthering their use of technology, rather than focusing on the element of emotion and storytelling.
There is a lot of ground to cover when it comes to the technical aspects of Tarkovsky's films. We can start off with the long single takes that Tarkovsky uses to track the actors. This builds up the atmosphere and helps the audience to get fully immersed. It builds tension and allows the audience an opportunity to process the scene. He also cuts scene at the peak pressure of time. He times it perfectly so as to create shock value.
Considered as USSR's response to 2001, A Space Odyssey, Tarkovsky released Solaris in 1972, based on Stanislaw Lem's novel of the same name.
A very important element of Tarkovsky's film aesthetics is his unique and highly controlled use of nature. Solaris begins with a leisurely contemplation of a landscape. Water ripples over seaweed, a breeze rustles through a meadow, and in the midst of this is Chris. He enters from the left and crosses the frame in the background, disappearing behind a bush before reappearing, showing him as merely another feature of the landscape. One of the movie's themes is the polarity between technology and nature, or earth and space, or scenic landscapes and an industrial urban setting. The long drive to the city made by Burton and his son presents a contrast between the natural and modern worlds, but also poses a metaphor for Chris's journey from Earth to outer space and suggests that the idealized natural world has been lost.
Tarkovsky's vision is gripping, yet slow. It takes time to establish the setting, and in its drawn-out sequences, it gives us time and space to think and process our own thoughts and feelings. The film touches on the themes of love, loss, spirituality, humanity, isolation, manifestation, and several others. Tarkovsky's most prevalent ideology in the film is the theme of love. When we love someone, what exactly do we love? Their physical self in its entirety? Or the version of them that exists in our head? Our images and perceptions of people are flawed, and we are drawn to the versions of them that exist in our conscience. The more we alter these perceptions, the more flawed our views of them become. Although the people we love exist independently, our entire relationship with them exists in our minds. Solaris is inherently about love. It shows that whatever humans feel is not only unique, but also intense. It is our personal, individual feelings that make us all humans. Even something as intangible as reproduction of one's reality is capable of feeling intense emotions like love and fear. Love is what makes us human, for it is the most human emotion of all. Love is eternally linked to loss, as we can only love that which we are capable of losing. Our reactions to loss and departure only run as deep as our conscience allows us. As long as these perceptions exist in our minds, they remain painted in the walls of reality. Our desires are the materialization of our conceptions. Our imagination takes on a human form, often forming a reality of its own. The manifestations of our mind are a result of our deepest desires. But what are these desires? Often, we ourselves don't know what we truly desire deep down, and as such, our manifestations suffer. We remain conflicted in our wants. Solaris also explores the relationship of man with his world. The feeling of home and the lonesome feeling of being away from it are both captured in the film. The journey towards the cosmos is a search of complete domination. The film says that regardless of the planets we discover, Earth will always be our home as we are spiritually attached to it. Man needs man. The film feels grounded in spite of its scientific nature and explores the depths of humanity's solitude in the cosmos. The film feels exceptionally bleak. Although we see glimmers of hope, it is ultimately sad and quite fitting for a film that portrays such deep, dark and distraught themes. It shows truly how fractured love and humans are. It debates on the nature of philosophy and that those burdened with the curse of knowledge are the saddest people in the universe. It juxtaposes the theory by saying that philosophy doesn't interest young and happy people, yet says that people are only happy because they tend to stay away from philosophical questions.
Another brilliant element that cannot go overlooked is how Tarkovsky manages to create the distinction between outer space and Earth. Color. By giving the movie a color scheme that speaks directly to human emotions, Tarkovsky was able to make his film feel very familiar. He uses jarring color shifts to his storytelling advantage. If we had to get nitpicky, we could discuss the use of green screens for certain effects. It lasts only for a few seconds, so it doesn't become an eyesore. Considering this movie was made in the 70s, it is a trivial component that we can let fall between the cracks. The aspect of costume design is pretty impressive, but isn't talked about enough. Tarkovsky often used to say that focusing an audience's attention on colors in costumes is unnecessary and that they should not be conspicuous. It's not simply a matter of dressing an actor. The key thing is that what he's wearing should correspond to the image of the character, said Tarkovsky. Through costumes, the designer helps to express the nature of a character, to reflect the times and places in which the action unfolds. As the script evolves, so does the costume.
Perhaps the only way to comment on Solaris is to feel it. We often can't describe the way we feel, something the film even touches on. And that makes Solaris such a great film, because you can condense all these ideas and themes as much as possible, and you can even take these high concept, vivid ideals away, and what you're left with is an intimate story of love and loss. Solaris doesn't feel like a science fiction film, or a drama film, or a romance film. It feels like an art film, taking inspiration from all the genres to create a singular artistic vision. An independent, mature piece of cinema and a faithful, fresh adaptation of the source material.